I wanted to speak in French, but I suppose it's not. It would not be. Hmm? So, so you will have my very bad English. Yes. So I will speak about realizability, what I call classical realizability. Realizability was invented by Kleene, Stephen Kleene, as you know, and very much developed after that. But it was restricted to. It was a kind of proof program correspondence, in fact, the beginning of the proof program correspondence. And, and it was, in fact, restricted to intuitionism, intuitionistic logic. And this work was made possible by what I consider as a great discovery, which was made by Griffin in 1990, which is the interpretation of the excluded middle by means of an instruction. I consider this as a very important discovery, a very strange fact that one of the simplest method of reasoning in mathematics, which is the excluded middle, which was in use during 2,000 years, was related, was in fact almost the same thing as a very sophisticated instruction in programming languages, an instruction, a control instruction, which means an instruction which saves the environment, which saves and which restores the environment. So it's very strange because it was, for instance, it was impossible to Euclid, for example, to know anything about control instructions. And I consider this at least as important as Gödel's theorem of incompleteness, because it is related to very deeply in logical reasoning, perhaps more deeply than the incompleteness theorem. Well, so the classical realizability is it's a kind of it's an avatar of the Curie-Howard correspondence. So it's a relation between programs and proofs, and as a byproduct, it gives models of set theory, and it is about this byproduct that I will talk you now. So I call this model realizability models, and they are interesting for many reasons. The first one is that they are the first new models of ZF since forcing. So models of ZF, of Zermelo-Frankel, are rather rare, and when we put an end on one of them, we are very pleased. And so it's the first thing. The second thing is that they use very thoroughly informatic method, computer science method, lambda calculus, combinatory logic, virtual machine, and so on. Very technical programming instruction, and so on. And conversely, they give some new views about programming, because because we extend by means of this model, we extend the Curie-Howard correspondence to the whole of set theory, almost the whole of set theory. Except, for the moment, except the axiom of choice, but in fact, it's not a true limitation, as we will see. And it's interesting to also, it's interesting because we can get in this way, this is a big problem in computer science, to get secure programs. And we know that the Curie-Howard correspondence is more or less a way to obtain secure programs, proved programs. And in this context, the method is the following. We need to solve what I call the specification problem, which is you take a theorem in set theory, or in an extension of set theory, which I will show you. You take a theorem of set theory, and you ask what is the specification associated with this theorem. I call this the specification problem. You must understand that it's not a trivial question. In fact, it's a very difficult question for each theorem, because the specification associated with the theorem is not at all related simply with the theorem itself. The simplest example of this is the excluded middle, in fact. You take the excluded middle, which is a theorem, a very simple theorem, and the program which is associated with this theorem is not at all related with the excluded middle itself, and it is exactly why the discovery of Griffin is so interesting. Then, what we hope in this way, it's not the case for the moment, because the specification problem has not been solved for many interesting cases. But the aim is to obtain in this way useful secure programs, but it's different from the it's not a method the usual method to get secure program is to take a program and to try to obtain a proof of it. Here we don't know the program. We hope we take a theorem, we get a program, and we look at the program in order to understand its usefulness. And it's a different way. It's a different kind of different method. Well, and these models also are interesting because they give us a new insight about set theory. First, we see that the most important axiom of set theory, the most difficult axiom, is extensionality. And by far, because it's much more than the excluded middle once we know Griffin's result, in fact, indeed. The particularity of the extensionality axiom is the fact that it is impossible to obtain a program for it. It's the only axiom for which, the only axiom of ZF for which we do not obtain, we cannot obtain, we do not and we cannot obtain a program. So it's the first thing about set theory. The second thing is about the axiom of choice. These models suggest that the only natural axiom of choice is not the full axiom of choice, but only dependent choice. Set theorists usually take as the standard set theory, they take ZFC. And what happens with this model, which these models, in fact, never satisfy the axiom of choice. I don't know, in fact. In every case in which I was able to decide this, it was the case that axiom of choice was false. And dependent choice was true. I don't know if it's a general case. It's a very interesting problem, which was raised, in fact, by Thomas Drescher. And for the moment, it's not solved. And in my opinion, it's not very wise to consider, as all set theories do, to consider ZFC as a standard set theory because of this situation. Well, I told you that this method was a new method to obtain models of set theory. In fact, forcing is a particular case of classical realizability, but a very degenerate case, as you will see. The realizability models, the true realizability models, which are not forcing models, are much more complicated to study than forcing model. No method forcing is known, has been in use for half a century now, and it was there is much method, very elaborate methods and so on, which have been developed to study models of ZF obtained in this way. And none of this method is applicable to realizability models. So we have to invent every tool for understanding this model, which are the structure of this model is much more complicated than in the case of forcing. In particular, there are not an extension of the ground model. Forcing models are always an extension of the ground model, and realizability model are not even an extension of the ground model. The ordinals are changed, and even the integers. And the axiom of choice is not preserved. Now, I will use two main tools to study these models. First, a syntactic tool and a semantic tool. The syntactic tool is a conservative extension of ZF, which I call ZF epsilon, in which there is a strong membership, a new membership relation, which is stronger than the usual one, which is epsilon, and which does not satisfy extensionality. As I told you, the reason is that, as I told you, extensionality axiom cannot be directly realized by a program. So I will show you this theory. And in the semantic of forcing is given by sets of conditions or Boolean or complete Boolean algebras. Also, it's two different presentations of forcing. And for realizability model, the corresponding structure, I call it realizability algebra. It is an extension of what is well known in theoretical computer science, a structure of combinatory algebra, but it's a three-sorted extension because combinatory algebra manage programs only, and we have to manage not only programs but also environment because of the control instruction and machine execution. So we need three sorts of objects in our structure. Well, So I begin by the semantic aspect, which is the notion of realizability algebra, which is so it may look rather complicated thing, but if it's since you know what is a combinatory algebra, it's not difficult for you. So you have three sets, which is the set of terms, the set of stacks, which are the environment, and the set of processes, which are the executable things. In the set of terms, we distinguish three combinators, which are 5 of them, were the initial combinators given by Curie. In fact, B, C, I, K, and W are well known since Curie. I don't take the usual combinators K and S for reasons which will be apparent later. And you have one more combinator, which is denoted CC, which means call CC. Call with which because the instruction that Griffin used to interpret excluded middle was an instruction of the language scheme, which was call with current continuation, or call CC. And you have the for operation, you have the usual notion of application between terms, for which I use this notation, which may look strange, but you have the instruction push, which take a term and a stack and push the term on the stack. It's an interpretation because it's only we are explaining a first order structure, so it's simply an application. You have an operation which transforms an environment into a program, a stack into a term, which is denoted by pi and k pi, and called the continuation. When you transform an environment into a term, the term is called the continuation. And you have the formation of processes. Simply, when you take a program and an environment, you can execute the program. You cannot execute a program alone, which is very realistic because in real computers, if you program something, you cannot execute the program. You need to have the environment given by the operating system, for example. And so you take a program and an environment, and you obtain a process which is something which will execute. It's only an interpretation because you simply have in theory, you simply have an application which take a term and a stack and give a process. And you have a preorder of processes which you can interpret as execution. And you have a distinguished subset, bottom, a set of processes which is closed by inverse execution. The complement of bottom is closed by execution. And a set of terms, which I call proof-like terms, set PL, which are what is the interpretation of PL? The real programs, in fact, the program you obtain by programming. When you program something, you will get a proof-like term. It's only again, it's only an interpretation. You simply take a subset PL of lambda with the property that it contains the elementary combinators and it's closed by application. And you need the first axiom, which is that every proof-like term is not false, which means that for every proof-like term, there is an environment for which this process is not false, it's not in bottom. It's a coherence axiom. And you have the other axiom are axiom for execution, the axiom of execution, and they are very intuitive axioms. It's very easy to understand. And you have the interpretation which is given here, exactly what you may guess. You have the operation of push. You take an application and you can push the argument on the stack. And you have the interpretation of the combinators, I, which is no operation, K for delete, W for duplicate, C for swap, B for apply, and call CC. What does CC? It takes a stack and he builds the continuation associated with the stack, and it gives this continuation to as an argument to the program Xi. And you see, it's exactly the name call Xi with the current continuation, which is K pi, the continuation associated with the current stack. So it's exactly the name of the instruction explain very well what is the behavior of call CC. And what do we do with this continuation? This continuation is used to restore the stack when it is executed, which is the last axiom, K pi Xi. So you see, the current stack is thrown away, and we restore the stack which was saved in the continuation. Well, but as you know, it's impossible. Concretely, it's impossible to write programs with combinators. It's absolutely. It would be very difficult. So combinators are very useful for theoretic definitions. But we need higher level languages, which is lambda calculus. Lambda calculus is always considered as very low level languages. But compared with combinator, it's a very high level language. So if you consider a term, consider what I call a C term is simply a term which is built with a combinator and variables. For example, I give you as an example the successor of an integer, which is written like this. So you can build integers. You have here 0 and plus 1. So these are examples of C term, closed C terms, in fact. And when you have a C term, you can define its abstraction. There is a provisional abstraction, which is in a lambda mirror, And you have the true abstraction, which is the real lambda, which is defined with the lambda mirror in this way. Lambda xt is simply lambda x it. The reason will be given in the next slide. So you have the definition of lambda, which is self, I suppose, which is self, which does not need much explanation. It's not clear that this is a recursive definition, and it's not clear if you look precisely at these cases. It's not clear that it terminates, that it will give you really lambda xt because of the last. Here you see that everything behind lambda is decreased at each step, except this one. But it's very simple to prove that it terminates, so I will not. It's elementary proof. So it's an explanation why the translation is finite. And the important thing is simply that the lambda, the real lambda, behaves as we want. That is, you have a kind of beta reduction, but only in this way. If you have lambda x, lambda x1, lambda xn t, in head position of the process, and you give it the argument xi1, xin, you obtain what you suppose. Well, and I give an example why the usual KS translation has not this property. If you take as a very simple example, you take this. If you translate this by KS as usual, you will get this. Not you should get this, and you get this. You can say it's almost the same thing, but in more complicated case, it will be very, very, very different. And all the proofs in classical realizability are based on this property. So from now on, I will use lambda terms and not combinatory, or very rarely combinatory. You can consider, if you want, combinatory terms as machine language and lambda terms as assembly language, which is a rather high level on the machine language. So now for the syntax, we go to syntax. The formal system. On a commencé à 4h10, hein? Oui, mais ah bah ouais, bah. So what I use a theory which I call ZF epsilon, which is conservative extension of ZF. It has 3 binary relation symbols, which are the strong membership, the usual membership, and negated, in fact. The elementary symbol is the negated strong membership, the negated usual membership, and the usual inclusion, the set theoretical inclusion. So you have 3 binary symbols. You have the rules of natural deduction, about which I will say nothing. because you know this very well. And we have this axiom, which says that CoLCC has the type of the law of Peirce. Well, I only use the connective implies and for all, and all other and the bottom, in fact, to be complete. And all other connective are defined, and I use a strange notation for existics. The comma is for the means conjunction, and I use comma because, in fact, this stands for this. And it's simpler to visualize if you write in this way than if you write in this way. The great difficulty in realizability in general, and in classical realizability in particular, is to obtain is the formalization of proofs. It's not particular to, in fact, to classical realizability. Formalization of proof is very difficult. And we need much elementary tools and visual tools and so on to simplify a little bit and to make this process a little bit more less painful, in fact. And all this notation and so on have this aim. So the axiom, what are the axioms of ZF epsilon? It's very simple to explain. You simply think that epsilon is a binary well-founded relation and that its extensional collapse satisfies ZF. Intuitively, it's the meaning of the axiom which are here. So you say you need essentially the foundation scheme, and this property which link the symbol of ZF, the membership and the inclusion with epsilon. And then you have the usual axiom of ZF a little bit adapted. So the meaning of this axiom are exactly this. Epsilon is a well-founded relation, and the extensional collapse, which is the usual membership, satisfy ZF. So we don't have extensionality for epsilon, because in this case, you don't have extensional collapse, would be identity. But there is another big difference with ZF, is the fact that we have function symbol. We need, not exactly in ZF epsilon, we need function symbol in classical realizability, in the realizability model. So, so we have many extensional symbols which will appear a little bit later. And what is, how do we obtain realizability models of ZF? The method is exactly the same as in forcing. So we start with an ordinary model of ZFC, and which I call the ground model. In fact, you can take a model of constructibility of V equals L. If you take a model of V equal L, you can define many function symbol in it, which are the Skolem function. Each time you have, for all x, exist y, f of x, y, you can introduce a function symbol if you have the, what is called the principle of choice, which is satisfied, for example, with the axiom of constructibility. You have for all x, f, you can introduce a function symbol like this. So you, we will have many functions. We can introduce in a model of ZFC. In fact, it's not exactly ZFC. I should take any model of ZF plus the principle of choice. For example, a model of ZF plus V equal L is a very strong principle of choice. And so I can introduce, in this model, I can introduce Skolem symbols for every formula with the parameters. Well. And now, in the ground model, you cannot interpret ZF epsilon. You only interpret formulas of ZF, that is, formula of ZF epsilon without epsilon. And now, the realizability model, which is a generalization of the forcing model, is simply, it has exactly the same domain as the ground model. So its individuals are the same. The function symbol have exactly the same interpretation. So there is something which is different. It's the truth values of formula. In the ground model, the truth value of a closed formula is true or false. It's a Tarski, it's a model in the sense of Tarski. The realizability model is in fact a Boolean valued model. That is, each closed formula with parameters in M has a truth value. In fact, it has two truth values. The important one, Alexandre Miquel called it falsity value. It's a good name because it means that it's a value of falsity. So you have two truth values for every formula. The first one, which is a real truth value, is a set of terms. And the most important one, which is the falsity value, is a set of environment, is a set of stacks. A term which is in the true value, the first truth value of f, we say that Xi realizes f and is written as Xi force f, because it's a generalization of the forcing, in fact. And we see that the truth value is defined by means of the falsity value. So the important thing is the falsity value. When you take a term Xi, it will realize the formula f if and only if for every stack in the falsity value, the process you obtain is in bottom. So the truth value is immediately defined from the falsity value. So you need only to define the falsity value by induction on the formula, exactly as in forcing. So, look, the falsity value of true is empty because every stack which is in the falsity value, you can understand it as an opponent of the formula. And the truth has no possible opponent. And on the contrary, bottom, everything is an opponent of bottom. So a stack will be an opponent of the fact that A doesn't belong to B. So a stack will be will say that A epsilon B if and only if the couple A is in B. So you see that the definition of epsilon is very simple, but the definition of the relation symbol membership, the relation symbol of ZF, the membership and the inclusion, is much more complicated. In the case of forcing, it's the first difficulty in the definition of forcing, and it is defined by induction of the rank of A and B, because we are in a model of ZF, of ZFC in fact. So you can define in this way. What does it mean? You see that something will be, you ask, when a stack P will be an opponent of the fact that A is included in B, it will mean that you have a C such that P, you have the stack P which says that C is in A, and you have a term C which says that C doesn't belong to B. So the stack given by the combination of these two elements, which is obtained by pushing the term on the Xi on the stack P, will be an opponent of the fact that A is included in B. And you have, in the same way, here you take a stack and you say, when will it be an opponent of the fact that A doesn't belong to B? So it will say, this stack will say that A belongs to B. So you will have a term which says, two terms, which will say that A is equivalent to C, extensionally equivalent to C. You need two terms. And you have a stack which says that C belongs to B. And you push, you combine this element by pushing Xi and Xi prime on the top of pi, and you obtain. So it's the most complicated definition. The rest of the definition of the truth value is very simple. The implication, you take when. How do you get a stack which is an opponent of F? You take a stack F equals A implies B. You take a term which forces A, and the stack which is an opponent to B. And you combine by pushing the term on the stack. And for a quantifier, it's very trivial. Well, and you have the what is called the Quasi lemma, which says that a term will realize a formula if a term, if you obtain a proof in if you obtain a proof in natural deduction that T is of type A, then the term T, the lambda term T, will realize A. And we will say that the model N, the realizability model I obtain in this way, I call it N, and I will say that it realizes F if there is a proof-like term which realizes F. And so the realizability model is not a real model because is not a Tarski model because the truth value in N is not 0, are not 0, 1. But we can get a Tarski model from N because the class of realized formula is closed by classical deduction by this theorem. So, and it is coherent, which means that the formula bottom is not realized because of the axiom, the coherence axiom I have given for realizability algebra, the fact that for every proof-like term there is a stack such that theta star pi is not in bottom. So the realizability model gives us a class of a coherent class of formulas, so we can get, for example, by completeness theorem or by ultrafilter method or any method you want, you will get a real model. You can think, since we are in classical logic, in fact, each time it's a particularity of classical logic, which is a very important particularity, is the fact that every consistent theory you can think in terms of Tarski realizability, which is very simple to think about. And so I think the importance of classical logic is here. It's the only logic for which we have a very intuitive semantic. It's the only one. You don't have any other. And so it's really, I think it's, for this reason, I think it's the most important logic. Well, alors, yes, this remark is important. If the set bottom, the set of processes, the distinguished set of processes is not empty, so you have something which is in bottom. And then you deduce that the term k peak psi realizes false. So false is realized in general. Because if bottom is equal to the empty set, we are in the trivial case of Tarski semantic, and it's not interesting for us. And in every other case, bottom is realized. And if bottom is the least value, the least truth value, so in fact, if bottom is realized, any formula has realizer. And now we have the following theorem, that the axiom of ZF epsilon are realized. We need to, I will not prove it here, but it's not difficult to prove. In fact, and so, since the axiom of ZF are logical consequences of ZF epsilon, and since the axiom of ZF epsilon are realized, the axiom of ZF are realized also. And in this way, with this model, we can get a relative consistency result in this way. It's an important remark is the fact that perhaps it's explained in the following. No. An important remark is the fact that the axiom of ZF epsilon are realized and are very easy to realize. And they have very simple realizer. The most complicated realizer is for the axiom of foundation, and it's Y. It's a fixed point combinator. And for other axioms, essentially, it's realized by identity or perhaps by lambda x, x, y, and so on, by very simple lambda term. The axiom of ZF epsilon are realized very easily by very simple lambda term. It's not the case for ZF. And it's rather easy to understand why. We need proofs. The axiom of ZF are consequence of the axiom of ZF epsilon, but they are not trivial consequences. Even if the proof is not very difficult, it's not trivial. And you know that each time you have a non-trivial proof, you get a lambda term which is rather big. It would have been impossible to realize directly the axiom of ZF. In the case of forcing, which is much simpler, it is done directly in general. I think it's better to do it this way. But in the case of classical realizability, it would have been impossible.
Excuse me. So extensionality is realized by that? Or?
No, extensionality, yes, it is realized. But extensionality is not realized for epsilon because it's false. And you get extensionality is realized, but not by a sample term. Yes, I understand the question because I have said that extensionality is not realized. No. Extensionality is an axiom of ZF, and all the axioms of ZF are realized, in fact. But I was thinking about ZF epsilon. We need, I wanted to say that we absolutely need ZF epsilon, and epsilon, we cannot realize extensionality because it's false. Here is an explanation of the forcing, the relation between forcing and realizability algebra. So look, here you see what, if you have a set of conditions, I explain here why forcing is a degenerate case of realizability algebra. If you have a set of conditions, you can consider it in the following way. You have a set of conditions, which is simply an ordered set, but you can consider it as an mth semi-lattice with a meet operation and the greatest element 1. And you need, if you have such a set, it would be trivial in forcing because every pair of conditions would be compatible, and so it would be. So what you say, and you have a subset, which you can call bottom or as you like. You take a subset which is closed by mth, which is an ideal, if you want, of the semi-lattice. And the real set of conditions is a complement of bottom. And you always can consider a set of conditions is this way. And you see that you have here, so you take for lambda and pi, and the set of stacks, the set of terms, the set of process, the same are all the semi-lattice. And every combinator is the greatest element 1. And the bottom is bottom. The proof-like term is all proof-like terms are 1. And well, and you have all the operations which are the meet. The operation application, push, process, and so on are identical with the meet. So you see everything is completely degenerated. You have no program because all programs are confounded in one. You have lost the notion of program in forcing. So it's why I say that it's a very simple realizability algebra. And here, I want to avoid this case because I'm not interested in forcing because it's very well known, very well studied, and so on. And I'm interested in realizability model which are not forcing models. And you have the we have many necessary and sufficient conditions for a realizability algebra not to be forcing. And here you have, for example, that a realizability algebra will be equivalent, will give only forcing model if you have in it a parallel OR, which means the term E, such that every time you have two elements of false, of bottom, this the term E xi eta will be. You can say this, for example, if xi and eta realize false, then E xi eta realize false. It's equivalent to this, the same thing. It would not be the same E, but it's equivalent. So it's an example of necessary and sufficient condition not to be forcing model. We have many such things. Well, ça fait 1 heure. Donc j'ai droit à 1 heure et demie. Oui. D'accord. Well, equality. You have, of course, you have two notions of equality, because you have the usual equality which is extensional in ZF, which is the extensional equality, which is given by x included in y and y included in x, which means that x and y have the same element. And you have the strong equality, which is related to epsilon, which can be also called Leibniz equality, which is that if x is equal to y, if each time x belongs to z, y belongs to z. Well, you can prove that it's exactly the properties for equality. That is, that equal terms have the same properties. It's Leibniz equality. And extensional equality, you have the same property, but only for formula which speak about ZF and not for ZF epsilon. That is formula which do not contain epsilon. Now take a very important thing will be the function symbols. I insist on function symbol because it's the main tool. It's one of the main tools in realizability models. Because function symbol, we have many function symbols we know very well in the ground model, and they extend immediately to the realizability model. And it's very... a remark about the realizability model is the following. I should have said this. You have the ground model M, and in fact the realizability model N, which has the same set of individuals. But it has the same set of individuals because its truth value are not, because it's not a Tarski model. It has truth value which are not 0, 1. If you apply the completeness theorem in order to obtain a real Tarski model, so you obtain a model n prime, which will be much bigger than n, because you have you take a language, you apply the completeness theorem. So you take for your language each element of m or n as a constant, and all the function symbol and relation symbol. And so you will obtain a set which contain interpretation for each element of n. So in fact, n prime will be bigger than n. The Tarski model will be much bigger. So it will have elements which are not named. It's very important to understand because it's a particularity. In the case of forcing, it's not. You can take, it's a miracle. In the case of forcing, you have n prime equal n because you take an denumerable, a countable model n. If you take a countable model, you can, if n, m or n is the same, are countable, you can take n prime equal n. In the case of forcing, it's very, very particular. But in the general case of realizability model, even if you take the countable model, we will never get n prime equal n for reasons which will be clear in the following. So what is interesting also, why function symbols are so important? Because you have a function symbol, for example, f, m, shem, or n, the same. In m, you have a function symbol, but this function symbol is in the language, so it is defined in n prime. And so you get, for free, values of f on the new elements, which is very important. You will have many examples of that. It's the reason why function symbols are so important. We can obtain function define. The difficulty in studying the models, the realizability model, are exactly the fact that we have many elements which are not named. And it's a big difference with forcing. Bon. Well, so if you take a function symbol, it extends immediately to n, it does not extend. In fact, it's the same symbol, but it's for n prime that you have an extension. You have it has the same value on named individuals. And ZF epsilon remains satisfied in the extended language, yes. But if you take a function symbol, it will not satisfy ZF unless it is compatible, because if you want to interpret the symbol f in the model of ZF associated with n prime, it must be compatible with extensional equality. So you must check, if you want to interpret the function symbol in ZF, you must prove that, you must check that this formula is realized, the fact that x is extensionally equivalent to y, then f of x is extensionally equivalent to f of y. Or if you want, you can say this in this way, but it's the same thing. Oh, well, this, well, perhaps I will explain this because just I will not explain the proof, but I explain because, as I told you, the difficulty is to compute. The difficulty is to compute the truth value. It's very big. So every trick, and there are many possible tricks. Every trick which simplifies a little bit computation is good to take. Je ne sais pas si on dit ça en anglais. Bon. And so it will. I give you here an example of such a simple trick, but not so evident. Leibniz equality is very complicated to compute. You must compute this value. If you want to compute the value of this, you will have or Leibniz equality is essential in every theorem. You need equality. So you need to have a mean to compute with equality, which is not the computation of this, of the truth value of this formula. And you have the following trick, which is define the negation. Define a new symbol of a relation symbol, different, in this way, with very simple truth value. You say that A is different of B is true if A is really different of B, and A different of B is false if A is equal to B. So it's very simple. And you can prove that it is equivalent to the negation of Leibniz equality. So you never use Leibniz equality, you use this because the truth value are... so you need simply this theorem once and for all. You need the proof. The proof is not completely trivial, you see, it's... but you say that Y realize the implication in one direction, and a lambda term not so simple realize the implication in the other direction. So you have a proof-like term here. So it's all you need. It's realized in the model. So, and you interesting thing, you have call CC in this one. So from now on, you never use Leibniz equality directly. You use this, the negation, because it's very simple to compute. And something which is also very important is the preservation of well-foundedness. Suppose you have a function symbol which has the property that f of xy or yx equals 1 is well-founded in the ground model. Then the same relation with equality, with Leibniz equality here, the same relation is well-founded in the realizability model. That is, you can realize this foundation, this kind of foundation scheme, you see, which says that the relation f of yx equals 1 is well-founded in the realizability model. And the lambda term which realizes this is one of them. We have many, many lambda terms which realize this, but the simplest one is y. And it's very important. It's very useful also. It's a very useful trick. The first use is to prove that the foundation axiom. You use this trick, for example, to realize that y, to prove that y realize the foundation of axiom of ZF epsilon. Here, I explain how I realize. You see that it's very simple to realize the collapse, the pairing, the comprehension, and so on. So I explain here that the axiom of ZF epsilon are very simple to realize. But, as I told you, it would have been very difficult to realize directly the axiom of ZF. Ah, yes, here. Here, je ne sais plus où j'en suis. Je sais plus où. J'ai perdu. Ah bon? J'ai perdu l'initialisation. Je sais plus. Pardon? Ah, je suis parti à 10. Ah d'accord, j'ai encore 10 minutes. Ah oui, d'accord, j'ai encore 20 minutes. Bon. Ah, yes, another very important trick, if you want, but also a logical thing. I define something which will be very important, a very important tool in the study of realizability model. I call it Gimel. This is because Aleph and Bet were already used in cette théorie. Ah merde.
It's kappa to the finality kappa.
C'est quoi?
Gimel of kappa is kappa to the Finality of kata.
Oh, les salauds. Les salauds. Bon, bah tant pis, parce que c'est très différent quand même. Il n'y a pas de confusion possible. Bon. So, I define this symbol, gimel. The definition is really so simple that it almost useless to have a new symbol, but it's so used so often that you have one symbol less, and so it's valuable. So you simply gimel E is simply E times pi, the set of stack, and you define a quantifier for all x in, you can read for all x in gimel E, which has a very simple definition. You remember that for all x, A of x is the union for all E of A of E. And for all x gimel E is the union for all E in E of A of x. And this is the falsity value. Therefore, the truth value is the intersection D. And it has exactly the important thing also, it has exactly the meaning that I want, which is for all x in gimel E, in the object gimel E, we have A of x. So this theorem proves this. In one direction you have this, and call CC in the other direction is very simple to prove, so I don't insist on this. But gimel will be, you can consider intuitively for every set of M of the ground model, you can consider the individual gimel E as representing the type, in some way, the type associated with E. For example, gimel 2 is 0, 1, or gimel n may be considered as the type of booleans and the type of integers. And we will see that it is gimel 2 is very different from the boolean, very bigger, much bigger, and gimel n is much bigger than the integers. Well, and what we see is that if in the model you have a function symbol from E1 to with argument in E1, EK, and value in E, then in M, the extension to n of the symbol f will be, it's very simple to prove, to realize. So when I write n realize something, it really means that you have here a proof-like term, in fact. Some proof-like term realize this. In fact, it's simply essentially identity, which realizes this. So for the first example is very, very important. The first example is to take for E the set 2, which is 0, 1, and the function, it's a very complicated function, Boolean function defined on the trivial Boolean algebra 0, 1. So you have something which is very trivial. And, I forgot something. You have the following property of the extension. I forgot the important fact that if in M you have an identity between terms built with function symbols, you have the same identity which is realized in N. In the type-like sets associated with E1, EK. So look, for example, at the set 0, 1. You have the usual Boolean operation, and you can extend them to, so you have Boolean, the identity satisfied by this operation are the axioms of Boolean algebra. So you have a structure of Boolean algebra on Gimel2 in the realizability model N. And Gimel2 contains 0, 1, which it's a Boolean algebra, but except in the case of forcing, it's much bigger than 0, 1. It's exactly the same as saying Gimel2 is 2, is identical with 2, and that the model is a forcing model. It's another characterization of forcing model. So in all the interesting model for us, Gimel2 is bigger than 2. And we see also that it gives you an interpretation of intersection types. Because look at the value of for all x in Gimel2 f of x, which this formula says that f is true for all elements of Gimel2, for all elements of this big, or not trivial Boolean algebra. It's the intersection for x equal 1 and x equal 2. It's exactly the intersection of the value of. It's much stronger. It's much stronger than f of 1 and f of 0. This formula means that f is true for 1 and 0. And this intersection means that f is true for all x in Gimel2. It's much stronger. Another interesting remark is that each element in epsilon sense, each epsilon element of Gimel2 except 1 is empty. So we have extensionality is false. You have here an example, because every element of Gimel2 is empty. It's very simple to prove. It's trivial if and only if the realizability model is a forcing model. And only two elements of Gimel2 are named, which are the trivial elements 0 and 1. So you see, Gimel2 is a very important Boolean algebra in order to understand the structure. It's the first thing we need to compute if we want to understand the structure of the realizability model N. And it's rather difficult to handle because you cannot speak about elements of Gimel2 except you know 0 and 1 and other are phantom. Here I define the integers. Well, I will be very quick about this, but it's very important. What is yes? There is too much thing to define, so it's rather boring. But well, in order to define integer, it's useful to use as a successor not the usual successor, which is s of. Usually we take s of a equals a. In set theory, we use this, and we define the integer from 0. But in the model, But here, you see that this is a complicated function, so I will need a very complicated term and so on. It will be much simpler to define S of A, to consider S of A to be the singleton of A. So I define, in fact, S of A, the singleton of A in the realizability model. Oh, I forgot something also because I was very quick about axioms. The singleton model, the singleton element of A in the realizability model is, in fact, this. There is a remark I should have made, which is very important, about the pairing axiom. when I prove that the pairing axiom is true, you take A and B and you define something which is A, B times P, and you prove that the identity realizes that A is in C and B is in C, and so you have got a set, an individual which contains A and B, and you are satisfied. But you must remark that this is not the pair, it is not the pair AB. It is much bigger. It's exactly the same reason that Gimel 2, which is 0, 1 times P, is much bigger than the pair 0, 1. So if you want exactly, if you can define exactly, if you want, something which will be a pair, but here you have a definition. C prime, you can take A. The K is the Boolean, in lambda calculus, it's the Boolean 1, and you take the Boolean 0, you see, and you have a definition. You must say A is in C prime, and it's the first element. It's not an ordered pair, but you need to, in order to prove, you need so you need to, it's more complete. The real pair, not ordered pair. The real pair is more complicated than this, but this is sufficient to obtain the pairing axiom. Well, I come back to... but the singleton here is exactly this. There is no problem for the singleton. It's a Gimel singleton A. So you define S, the symbol, the function symbol S, and you obtain. You can realize the formula. You can realize the formula you need in order to. If you define, I call it N tilde. It's the set of integers of the realizability model. You take Sn0, the set of ordered pairs, Sn0, and N underline is the integers I have defined in combinatory algebra, the integers I define with the successor in combinatory algebra. So it's an element of the combinatory algebra, and here is the stack. So you have the definition of, and I explain here that it is contained in the epsilon sense. I use this symbol for the inclusion, the epsilon inclusion, and this symbol for the set theoretic inclusion. So you can prove that this set is included in the type. The type of integer is much bigger than the set of integers, except in the case of forcing, in which everything is the same. Well, I will not insist on the issue. Oh, yes, yes, something. Suppose you have considered something which is the beginning of the proof, the program proof correspondence. Suppose you have a proof-like term which realizes the fact that it's a theorem that Sn0 is in N tilde. So you can realize it. You have many realizers. And if you take a proof-like term which realizes this, this will give you an integer. It's a program which computes an integer. In fact, we compute the integer n. In which way? How do you get from such a proof-like term, how do you get the integer n, which is completely hidden in the term? So you you can prove this. If you take any term kappa, any stack pi, you will have this. What does it mean? It means that if you execute, in fact, because you have, I don't prove this now, but if you execute this program with the stack pi has no importance because you get the same here. If you execute this program, at a certain moment, the term kappa will appear in head position. And if you have taken for kappa something which stops, something which has no interpretation, the execution will stop, and you will obtain n at the top of the stack. So it's the first example of how you execute a program, a proof-like term. A proof-like term is a program, but you cannot execute a program alone. You need to give it some environment in which it expresses its specification. Here, nu, the specification of nu, the specification of this theorem, which is provable in ZF epsilon. The specification of this theorem is compute n. In which way? You take this program, you put it in a suitable environment, and you obtain your result. But you need an environment. Ah ben ça, j'ai rempli mon contrat. Je regarde. I finish with integers, which will be very, very short because I want. What is the following? Yes, I finish with integers, and we call about arithmetical formulas in the next talk. You can define the integer. I have defined the integer, the quantifier for all x gimel n. And now I define the integer for all the quantifier for all x integer. For all x integer, for all x. Oh, I think it's written. No. I remember you that for all x gimel n f of the x is the union for n in the truth value, the falsity value, in fact, of all is of f of n. And for all x integers f of x, you will take all the stack which is in f of Sn0 is the same thing, Sn0. But you push on the top of the stack the integer n, and you have something which is equivalent. So it's another trick in order to compute with integer, because this quantifier is equivalent. We can prove that this quantifier is equivalent to voilà. Yes, here the quantifier for all x integer has a good meaning, which is for all x which is an integer, we have f of x. And it's a trick in order to compute this. We could compute this, but it would be much more complicated than this, for which we have a simple expression. And we have a characteristic property for recursive function. If you have a function symbol which is defined in the model M, the characteristic property of recursive function is the fact that if I extend the function to the realizability model, the image of an integer is always an integer. If f is a recursive function defined in the ground model, then we have a proof-like term, which depends on f, which say that for every integer, the value of f is an integer. And the proof-like term you obtain is a program which computes f with a correct environment. In fact, if you take integers, that is proof-like term which realize the fact that ni is an integer, you take your program, you put on the top of the stack the argument, which is a natural way to compute. You put a stop instruction, you follow the argument by a stop instruction, you have the rest of the environment, and after execution, when the stop instruction stops the program, you get your value here at the top of the stack. Well, I will stop here.
Are there any questions?
In the 1970s, Harvey Friedman gave an interpretation of a double negation interpretation of ZF in IZF.
In what?
In IZF, intuitionistic ZF.
Ah, yes.
And for intuitionistic ZF, there are many interpretations, realizability, sheaf models, etc.
Yes.
And combinations. I wonder, it would be very interesting to find the connection, if there is any.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is clearly a connection. But it's in, the problem is with IZF is that it is intuitionist by definition. So you don't. So well, the interpretation of Friedman. Yes, you have many things which are similar.
So is there a relationship between the double negation interpretation?
Ah, yes. No. Ah, yes. It's a very good thing about the double negation interpretation. So once and for all, the double negation interpretation is not suitable in order to program something. So you cannot use. Yes, you will say that you have the, how do you call it now, le truc de Plotkin, là, merde. Comment ça s'appelle? The interpretation of. Hein? Oui, continuation passing style, yes. I've forgotten the word. Je commence à force de parler anglais, je déraille complètement. Yes. You have the interpretation of the double negation interpretation is usually continuation passing style, but it's not usable. It's not theoretically usable. It would be, here the great problem is to compute the values. Everything which complicates must be excluded. And the double negation, and you need to, on the other side, you need to get tricks in order to simplify, because it's very difficult to compute. So the double negation interpretation is something which much complicated. So it's once and for all, it's excluded. It's a reason. It's a reason.
So will you show us results which?
For example, you could not be able. I have some result in coherence, relative coherence result about the negation of choice. Some results that R is not well orderable in a very strong way, which cannot be obtained with forcing. It would be completely impossible to get this with the method of double negation interpretation, because it's really so. It's the answer to you. I can say.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, I think it's time to thank Jean-Louis for his presentation.